Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. My friends, I have to work with the government of Eden again today. This is part 2 because as I tried to move on to something else, this kept calling me back. It has been a mind changer, a soul changer for me. It's the compilation of all of Joel's works. It's the best of Joel, all in one book. And Acropolis Books, whose website, which is new, is joelgoldsmithsbooks.com, is where you can get any information you want. They are heirs to all of Joel's work. Now that's pretty wonderful. They have a catalog that's out. You can call them. Anything you need, they can do it for you. So joelgoldsmithsbooks.com is the place to go, and I'm very grateful to Acropolis Books for supporting this show and enjoying the work that I do because I'm honored. I'm honored to work with Joel because I relate to Joel. I started 30 years doing this, and for 20 I honored every spiritual path that existed. They were all perfect, and they all related to what they were doing and saying. But then, 10 years ago, I read Parenthesis in Eternity, and that was it. I felt I was Joel. I mean, all his experiences I seem to have had, so I am grateful that for 10 years anyway, I've been preaching and carrying on Joel Goldsmith's work. Now, what's great about Joel is he wanted to find God. His mother always said to him, "Are you still searching? Because you need to do that." And Joel, who was a retailer and someone who, liked to sell goods, and he was so kind to his customers that they really loved him because he wasn't trying to push anything on them, which is great. And before I forget, Ryan Arnold is helping me out today, so I want to also applaud him for helping me out. But back to Joel. He was a retailer. He found his father was dying years into his life, and a Christian Scientist healed his dad. And so he went from retailing to Christian Science, and he became a reader in the first church. He studied it. He was a master healer himself. And then he realized the organized church was getting a little organized, and maybe it just wasn't working. That organization just was polarizing some of the aspects of the mortal world that he was trying to get away from. So in prayer, which he was constantly in, it came to him about the infinite way. The infinite way is a movement, and it's an experience, and it's an experience of re-identifying yourself as not being mortal. In the government of Eden, they talk about the first chapter of Genesis when we're all perfect and whole and we're happy and we're in the Garden of Eden and everything's great. The second chapter takes us into mortal mind and takes us into man and woman and greed and suffering and good and evil, and Adam and Eve kind of represented all of us. They left the garden, they ate from the tree of knowledge, and they decided there was good and evil in the world. So we have to overcome what we all have to overcome. We walk a middle path. This is what Joel calls our journey, which is a very long journey. He says we've been working for centuries on overcoming the mortal mind. Centuries have passed. Even 1,500 years before Jesus, they were teaching, love thy neighbor as thyself. I mean, this truth has been out forever. We came into this existence in this body, but we existed centuries before we arrived here. And when we're gone, we still will be the I. So we're eternal. The whole universe is a spiritual, invisible plane. It has no time, it has no space. It's only spirit. It is invisible. If you can think of yourself as what's going on within you, it's just you have messages coming to you from this spirit, which is God, who is pounding on your consciousness constantly, asking you to wake up and listen. I'm talking to you. So you have to do what we call meditate and be quiet. And human beings are not always fond of that routine. So being quiet, meditating, and being still is the only way you're going to hear the still small voice. We all run around frantically in this dimension. We were born like Adam and Eve into this mortal plane where we have to deal with one-upping, with best car, greed, selfishness, wanting prestige. And even Joel will say, you know, with spirit, we're not looking for you to look for praise either. We just want you to realize who you are. So that means honoring the presence within you, moment to moment, every day, every minute, 24 hours a day. As a matter of fact, he says you should try this for 30 days. It's a lifetime job, friends. And once you get into it, well, the burden's on you to do the work. And I like the way Joel says that. The burden is on you. You are a responsible spiritual citizen, and you've got a job to do. The darkness will find you because they want you to dispel it with the light that's within you. It looks for you. This whole plane, for centuries, actually, Joel does admit, some of the worst of man has been dissolved because it's been going on for a long, long time where he thinks this century is going to bring about a spiritual change where we will get back into the Garden of Eden. And the Garden of Eden is not so much a garden, it's a spiritual domain. It's a place within us where we can go and find comfort. We can go into that deep, deep peace. It takes discipline, my friends, and believe me, I know about that because I work so hard, and it seems like the journey never will end, but it gets better. And I think what makes it better is you find each day there are little miracles that crop up. You know, just little things, something you lost that you find, or you find that parking space, or you get that phone call, or something wonderful happens where the love you've shared comes back to you. Now here's the hint about the love you share. Anything that goes out from you, you are the sender and you receive what you send out, which is why I'm sitting right here. Because I'm waking myself up by sharing what Joel has written, because it helps me be clear about my identity. The infinite way is for you to reinterpret what you're looking at. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. You're looking at judgments and you're being critical because we were born like Adam and Eve into this, and this is what we do. We were brainwashed. We have mass hysteria going on here. We're mesmerized. So that's not going to work for us because that's going to come back on us. We could really do ourselves in if we don't wake up. I mean, that's going to just come right back and you could destroy your human self. So we want our spiritual nature, which has been given to us and it is within everyone you know. Everyone has the Son of God within him or her. Everyone was born whole, complete, and perfect. We came here to shed light and help God as individual expressions. Now, God can't come in here and do it. He's asking us as individual expressions to bring light to the universe. It will live forever, and our contributions are huge, and it won't end when our material bodies or we transition. So the job is meditate, be quiet, be still, and do it for 30 days if you can. I think that's kind of cute. But it becomes a lifetime job once you realize that when your criticism and judgments come back on you, it doesn't feel good because that's not who you really are. And you might buy into it for a while because maybe something comes to you which you think is great, but down the road as you grow and change, you realize you're part of a sonship. That all your brothers and sisters are you. They all have the source that you have. They all have the still small voice. They're perfect, no matter what they look like. You have to see them that way to get the love within you back. If you don't see them that way, then you're going to have to live with that, and it can do you in, and you don't want to do that. And that's what you find out. The burden is on all of us. And God really wants us to get there. He wants us to be very responsible citizens. This is an experience, my friend. This is something that happens as you project and you reinterpret good and evil. And praise, and the best, the best, the best, the best. That's not about it either. You are looking for the presence, for that inner peace. Now, I find sometimes it's hard to get to that place where the inner peace really, really feels right. You can do affirmations, you can try and get yourself down into that deep, beautiful place within you, but it's not always easy. It takes persistence. Yeah. and I should know about discipline. I'm very, very disciplined, and I've been working on this since I was a child, when I had an out-of-body experience, and I had a Christian Science dad and grandparents, and I was, privy to metaphysical thinking. And so I'm blessed, even with the name Chatterton. I mentioned it in the last program because I come from a family of Chattertons who were Christian Scientists and spiritual seekers, and yeah, they hung on their whole lives to what they believed in. And I saw that, and it meant more to me, much more to me later in my life. So my friends, this experience that you want is up to you. No one can give you the I consciousness. I am. I am. No one can give you that. You can't give it to someone else. No one can give it to you. You can't change anybody. You can look at the world differently, and often the world will send back something that looks different because you have decided it's perfect and it's whole, and you're happy about what you're seeing. You see love everywhere. Even if it's not there, you see it. That's all that counts. You're not here to change anybody, but just to be you, just to share the love within the heart of your soul. And I want to talk about the heart, because the heart means a lot to me. In my prayer life, when I let my hair down, and I really allow myself to go deep within about what I'm really dealing with and what I really want to pray about, that's when, even with tears, my life changes that day. The contact with God who's beating me over the head is even more beautiful, because pain is a holy angel. It really gives us so much. A lot of us have had I've lost 2 husbands, 2 sisters, too many pets, mom and dad. Those losses help us go within. We just, because mourning something that you loved helps us just say, well, God's going to have to be on deck and help me through this. And he or she does, or that energy. God is invisible spirit. This whole universe, he created an invisible universe. Now, he's not going to come in and fix it. He's asking us to fix it. So do you understand that? You've got a job to do. So as you grow and change, and you walk into some of your own judgments, God has no preferences. He often says you can love the mountains, you can love the ocean, you can love dogs, you can hate dogs, but it does not matter. We have to not just say, well, that's for me. That's God's universe. All the oceans, the animals, everything in this universe is perfect. And so we can't have preferences. We can enjoy, but we don't have to sort of think, well, why doesn't my friend like what I like? Because it doesn't matter. No preferences. So it's a universe that's going to return, and the Garden of Eden and the sonship is guaranteed, my friends. And I liked reading that, because our planet, with what's going on with people politically at war, he talks a lot about polling places. And when you go to polling places, take the I with you. Look for the, don't think about what your grandmother said you should vote for. Look for who's sharing love, who cares for somebody else, who wants to pull us together. Take the I, and don't be mesmerized by TV and media and all that brainwashing, which you can get into, which, by the way, I have to weed myself from lately. It's just like, oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear people trying to do each other in. It's not where I get solace. That's not where I get comfort. I'd rather listen to Mayberry or the Golden Girls, because that at least makes me chuckle. So, my friends, the government of Eden is the government of God. It really helps you to see what we have to do, where we've been. He says, he thinks in this century we are going to be back into the whole sonship. And as he says, a lot has been taken away from the worst of mankind, because we've been at this. These principles, spiritual principles of Joel, the government of Eden, have been around forever. Forever, forever, forever. I don't know how many incarnations you may have had, but people have loved each other forever. And that's what's making the difference. So, the work is paying off. That's the encouraging word. We will be back. This whole sonship will be ours. We will be in a Garden of Eden of total peace and love, and all this other stuff will be gone. However, again, being a disciplined Taurus, you got to show up, you got to do the work, because it's good to feel like you're bringing light, and every bit of light, every scrid of light that you bring dissolves the darkness. We have been mesmerized. So yes, mass hysteria is out there, as you can see. A lot of people don't meditate. I would say that's where our spiritual practices, and frankly all those years of sitting with people with their own spiritual practice, really encourages me when I think of how many ways you can find God. You can find the invisible spirit. And I know Joel would say, if it's not the infinite way, keep searching. Because your name is on something that's going to make sense to you, where you can buy into what that principle is, and you can share whatever it is you need to share. We are here to share. So what is your mission? Kind of up to you. What are you good at? I don't care if it's sweeping. I don't care if it's taking care of old people. I don't care if you're a chef. We're all little nobodies. We're not Jesus and we're not Buddha. And by the way, speaking of Jesus and Buddha, they worked hard. They did. Buddha went 21 years. He wanted to figure out why people were in sin and suffering, and he couldn't stand it. Finally, he sat under that Bodhi tree, and all of a sudden it dawned on him the illusions were from man. Man made all this up, and he was healed. And so Buddhism is really about resting in the presence. And Jesus, oh my gosh, he sat with prophets and seers, and he meditated and he worked hard, and he knew that the way was straight and narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. Now remember that. He's really acknowledging this is not an easy trip. He could see duality, but he only accepted one because he knew that's who he was. He was an instrument of peace. Everything. Why callest thou me good? Anything you see in me, said Jesus, comes from God. He was a pure soul. But I like the fact that when we read about prophets and seers, they worked hard for this. It's that discipline again. The burden is on us, my friends. We can do this, and we will do it, and the reason we'll do it is because we don't have any choice. God is pounding us over the head, and He's there to help us, and we are going to listen, and we're going to do what we're told. So sometimes those hunches, someone told me once a newspaper fell on the floor, and whatever the title was, it was an answer to a prayer. Prayer, the nature of prayer is interesting. It can come through in a million ways. You can hear somebody talking next door about something you needed to know, or what you had prayed about. So that means being alert, moment to moment. I love the 30-day trial. I think that's kind of wonderful. It's like you're trying a product for 30 days. And as you walk on water, as the Red Sea opens up and mansions are prepared for you, as Joel says, magic happens. So my friends, I cannot express enough about any of Joel's work. Now there's a catalog out that I have mentioned that Acropolis Books puts out, and if you go to joelgoldsmithbooks.com, you'll see the catalog. The catalog is a synopsis of absolutely everything that Joel has written. It's pretty fascinating. If you want to know which book might appeal to you more, you'll get the gist of it. On every page there's yet again another one. So it's a very valuable catalog, and you can send for it, call them and ask for it. They have a lot on their website that you can look at and enjoy. But they are heirs. They've got all his work, and they are very excited about that, as I would be too. So my friends, I keep thinking I've done at least 45 of Joel's books here. I'm not sure. And I ended up doing this one again today for a part 2 because the best of him, of course I say that about every book. If I went back to another one, I would swear I had never read it. There's something about the way he channels. It's new every time you read it. It's fresh. It's brilliant. And he said to God when he saw Adam and Eve, why do you think you're naked? You're not. You have the soul and the spirit of the Son of, you are the Son of God. And the sonship is yours. You have to claim it. Okay, you got to claim it. You got to reinterpret everything you look at. Now, you know what a big job that is. All day long you're going to see greed, and you're going to see good and evil and praise and wonderful stuff, and you have to reinterpret that to just say, I am. Everything's perfect. You project perfection onto everyone because that's all you're going to see. You're going to see the Son of God in every single soul. and you're going to do your job, and you're going to find something, and pray about it. Ask, I'm good at this, or I'm not good at this, or I think I might like to do this. If you pray about it, see what happens. Talk to people. And sometimes you find an infinite way friend, or anyone in a spiritual practice, and you can really talk and enjoy the camaraderie of sharing. Now that's why I'm here, because I'm giving out, I'm the sender and I'm getting it back. And I need to hear it. And I've got the signal, I've got 5 minutes, my friends, but I want to encourage you to think about the burden that's upon you, the work you need to do for happiness, for joy, for you're going to get the heavenly riches. You are an heir. Speaking of heirs, you're an heir to all of God's heavenly riches. Now you might say, gee, I'm waiting for my inheritance from my uncle. But just think about this. If you let go of what you think is coming to you, think about what could be greater than anything you could have dreamed of. It would be what God has for you, because the heavenly riches, you've got to surrender, my friends. You really have to surrender and sacrifice. That's what Joel did, that's what Jesus did, that's what Buddha did. A spiritual practice requires a huge commitment. So my friends, you can walk on water today. You can keep seeing the sonship and know it's going to happen. In the government of Eden, God's government, it says we're on our way and we're going to get there. We will be back to a universe of nothing but peace and love, and you need to help us get there by sharing it any way you can. Write a book, run a marathon. There's so many ways you can bring joy to people. And you bring joy to them in such simple ways. They don't have to know, by the way. You can be very within with what you're really doing, and you can give lip service, and that's very helpful. Joel says you can give lip service, which means you can agree with something that's not really what you agree with, but you don't want to take your sacred and private life and put it out in front of everybody, because as Joel says, you could be peculiar or weird. Now, I know all about that, because I've got to learn to keep my mouth shut in certain places where my friends will say, that's nice, or I'll be sorry that I said something, but it's okay to agree with something as long as your soul is on deck. And it's okay to be weird and peculiar. And it's okay to be a nobody. You don't have to be a Jesus, a great seer, a Saint Elijah, Moses, Paul. You can just make a huge difference as a so-called nobody that nobody knows, but you're still working spiritually on raising consciousness. So darkness will find you. You're going to greet it with light every minute of every day. So my friends, that's your assignment. I'm here to try and do this for me, and I encourage you to share from your heart, because whatever it is will be yours, because that's just the way it works. You've got a perfect soul. You're a son of God. You got it all. And there's going to be no way to get around that. You have it all. So my friends, I'm going to check out with thanking you so much, and thanking Ryan again for helping me today. He's easy to work with and made me feel better, because after a year of not getting in here, I always get nervous. So right now I'm feeling better, and it was great talking to you all, and thank you for joining me today on Awaken the Dream.